Hi, I'm Ruben Saltzman with Structure Tech Home Inspections, and today I'm making a video to myself. And the message is, Ruben, quit freaking out about your kids accidentally leaving the lights on. Okay, while I said this is to myself, I guess this could really be for any parent who freaks out about stupid energy loss, kids leaving lights on, stuff like that. And you know, what inspired this is maybe once a week, I'll come downstairs in the morning and I'll find the hallway light has been left on. And it just burns me. And I think, how much money are we wasting? I mean, this is gonna come out of the kids' college fund. This is ridiculous. And I was thinking, I really ought to get one of those occupancy sensors or you know, a motion sensor. It's where you replace your light switch with an occupancy sensor. So when you walk by, it turns the light on, and then there's a little timer inside. You turn this dial and you can set how long the light stays on for. So someone walks in the hallway, the light turns on, they leave, and 3 minutes later, or whatever it is, the light turns off. And I was thinking, I really ought to get one of those, because man, it is really tough for these kids to remember to turn the light off, at least one night a week or so. So, and you know, I'm probably exaggerating. It's probably not even that bad, but still, you get my point. It always feels worse than it is. So I was thinking, I ought to put one of these in. I looked at how much they are. My local Home Depot sells them for 23 bucks. And I thought, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm gonna put an end to this now. But then I started thinking through this a little bit more logically, like, all right, what is this really costing me in electricity? What's my break-even point? How long do these lights need to be left on for me to just break even and pay for the cost of this $23 occupancy sensor? So I did a little bit of math. Now, here in Minnesota, I pay 14 cents per kilowatt hour for my actual electricity usage. 14 cents a kilowatt hour. Now, a kilowatt hour is basically 1,000 watts running for 1 hour. Or not basically, it's exactly that, okay? 1,000 watts for an hour. So these two hallway lights get left on. Each of the lights has two bulbs. Each of the bulbs has an LED bulb, and they're 9 watts apiece. So total up, it's 36 watts at once for both of these lights to be left on. And if they're left on all night, say 8 hours, that adds up to 288 watts all night long. 288 watts. So if we do the math, 288 watts at 14 cents a kilowatt hour, it's a grand total of about 4 cents. Yeah, that's right, 4 cents to leave them on all night. So it's really not that bad. I'm freaking out over nothing. Now, if I put in one of these occupancy sensors at 23 bucks, divide 4 cents into that, and the kids would need to leave the lights on 575 times for me to just break even. And by the time that happens, they're gonna be moved out, and in college, they'll have their own kids. Ain't never gonna happen. So, Ruben, cool it. Calm down. This is not going to break the bank. The Lord's been good. We can afford that 4 cents every now and then. Okay, let's look at another example. Leaving the door open. Now, I will say, my kids are pretty good about this. I think it's more the neighborhood kids, maybe, who tend to leave the door open in my house, but who knows? It drives me bonkers when I see a door open and I got the AC on, or heaven forbid, the heat's on. Now, if the heat's on, I'm gonna feel that cold air coming in, but it'll happen in the summer. The door will be left open. I'll think, you know, what are we doing? Well, you're raised in a barn, you're trying to cool the whole neighborhood, all that stuff that us parents say, but what does this really cost? Now, I'll admit, I'm not smart enough to do the math. I can't quite figure it out, because it's going to depend on what the temperature is outside. The warmer it is outside, the more it costs me. It's also going to depend on where I have my thermostat set to. So a lot of variables, but what I can tell you, I can quickly figure out what anything is costing me in my house. I've got one of these sensors. It's called the Sense. It's this electricity monitor that I installed in my electric panel. I know I've blogged about it in the past, and I can pull it up on my phone, and it tells me instantly how much power my house is using. Like if I show you here, there's a close-up. It gives me a little graph showing all the power usage in my home. Tells me when something turned on, when something turned off, and yeah, all that fun stuff. So when I run my AC, between the furnace's blower fan and the AC compressor, those two add up to about 2,400 watts. And when you do the math, you divide that and you try to figure out, okay, what does this cost per kilowatt hour of electricity usage? At 14 cents a kilowatt hour, it's costing me about 37 cents an hour to have my AC on. Now, that's making an assumption that my house is really hot and I turn my AC on and it's going to run constantly for a full hour without cycling on and off. In reality, my AC does not run all day. Most of the time, if it's 85 degrees, my AC is going to cool my house to whatever the set temperature is, and then the AC is going to shut off for a while, then it'll run for a while. It's not on all the time. But worst case scenario, 37 cents an hour. Not the end of the world. Okay, one more example. Let's just look at one other thing to put things into perspective. In the winter, I like having warm feet. I mean, who doesn't? But I really like having warm feet. And my office tends to get a little bit cooler. I've got 2 outside walls here, and I tend to close my office doors, and it gets a little cooler in here during the day. So I've got this little ceramic wall heater underneath my desk. I just put my toe on the side of it, I flip the switch on, it gets nice and toasty, and I can keep the rest of the house a little bit cooler when nobody's home, and my office is just, it's comfortable. I got my legs warm, my feet are warm, it's great. It's a 400 watt heater, and every once in a while I will get up in the afternoon, I'll be done working, I'll go around, I'll do my thing for the rest of the day, and then at some point I step into my office and my office is super warm, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I left my heater on. Holy cow, it's going to be a big bill this month. That is a lot of electricity. What am I doing? And my self-imposed punishment is 50 burpees for this egregious mistake. But okay, what is this really costing me, right? Okay, 400 watts. If I leave that on for 4 hours, that's going to add up to a whopping 22 cents. A little more than 22 cents. Not that bad. But a different example. There was one time, and this is many years, this is probably a decade ago now, one of the inspectors on my team, heck, it could have been me, I don't know who did it, but somebody forgot to turn off an electric baseboard heater during a home inspection. Those heaters, people often have them in their basements, and they had turned up the heat on it to get it to kick on, make sure it's working, and we forgot to turn it back off. So the homeowner gets home, and this thing had been running all afternoon. We had a morning inspection, they get home in the afternoon, and the heater is still on. This seller was livid. I mean, they were mad, and they're like, this is going to be hundreds of dollars in electricity usage, and I want my pound of flesh. I need to be made whole. And at that point, we're in the wrong. We do some backpedaling, and we don't try to use any type of logic and explain what electricity actually costs. I mean, the actual cost. If you've got a 1,000 watt, 4-foot heater, it's going to cost you 14 cents an hour. That's really simple math. And if it was running all day, it might have cost, I don't know, up to $1, something like that. But in this case, there was no point in trying to, explain this away or any of that. We kindly wrote them a 3-figure check and said, we're so sorry. That was just a gesture of goodwill. And we were in the wrong. But in reality, what did this cost? It wasn't that much. Okay, I think I've made my point. The point here is that to me and any other parents out there who get way too whipped up over the little stuff like this, it's little stuff. I'm not saying waste energy. I still care about this. I still monitor my energy usage, and it still burns me when I see lights left on and nobody's in the room. It just drives me nuts. But at the same time, there's no reason for me to freak out over this. It's not the end of the world. That's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.